I train the IGCSE2 and many other international exams. Okay, so today our free workshop will be about how to improve your IELTS speaking in the actual IELTS test. Okay, so if you have any questions, once we finish, we are going to listen to your questions and to answer them. Okay, when you answer a speaking question in the IELTS test, answer it with the reason or with an explanation. Remember always, after answering the question, you have two questions you need to answer them. They are how and why. You may answer only how or you may answer only why. Don't give the answer only. That means you didn't answer anything. You will get the lowest score in the IELTS ever in this case. Okay? This is number one. Let's take an example. For example, if the question asks you about the weather in your country, you need to mention the weather you like and the weather you dislike with at least one reason. This is for example. You also mention how the weather makes you feel or what you do in that kind of weather, or even you may mention the transportation problems or how you spend the time there. For example, if it is in winter, you may say you spend the time at home doing that thing and that thing. If it is in summer, you go to some swimming pool, you go to some mall, you do these things in order to refresh your body or whatever. Okay? This is really important. In short, you just need to develop your ideas and expand in your answer. Don't give one sentence only unless they interrupt you. Unless they interrupt you. Is that clear for everyone? Yes. Is there any question about it here? Okay, let's move on. Let's come to the vocabulary. You need to use a range vocabulary for the topic you are answering. In the IELTS, we have a low band word score and a high band word score. We will give examples about that later. For instance, when we answer a question about the weather, using hot is a low band word score. Hot, okay? And instead of hot, you may use sweltering, scorching. You may say boiling. Why? Because these are high band word score. Okay? Let's take a look on some high band word scores here. For example, you have bad. And instead of bad, we may say deplorable. And instead of good, you may say acceptable. You may say satisfactory. You may say reasonable. And instead of harmful, you may say adverse, deleterious. And we have many examples here. Useful, you may say fruitful. You may say advantageous. You may say beneficial. You may say utilitarian, this word. It's the highest band word score, utilitarian. I haven't written it here. I haven't added this word here. It's from utility. The noun is utility. The verb is utilize. And the adjective is utilitarian. Instead of, for example, bad side, bad thing, you may say drawbacks, which is the opposite of the advantages of utilities. We say drawbacks. We don't say the defects or the bad things, these things. No, we don't say it in the IELTS. Why? Because you have low band word score, you have high band uses. Okay? Here, let's go back to our subject here. Here, sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. We have other recommendations. Fluency. The length of your answer, hesitations do not stop. The length of your answer, that means how many sentences or relevant sentences, reasons, answering the question how, sentences you add to your answer. If you answer with one sentence, as if you didn't answer anything. Okay? This is really important. Hesitations. How many times do you stop? Do you pause while answering? For example, I will give an example. My name is Haidar. I live in Baghdad. Baghdad is famous for its markets. It's the capital city of Iraq. No, those are the hesitations. How many you say? Sometimes we have something we call it flow. Flow hesitations are not irregular. Now, do not stop. Do not stop unless they stop you. They stop you, whether they will tell you thank you or they will ask you a following up question. This is really important. 2, vocabulary, range of words using the right words. Range of words we have just talked about. We have just given an example about it. Using the right words. For example, let's say, I have a lot of jobs. This is not using the right word. You need to say, I've got a lot of work. Because work here does not mean the word work, it means the duties to do within one field. When you say, I've got a lot of jobs, for example, you work as, for example, we've got 2 engineers here. You work as an engineer in the morning. Then you work as, let's say, a carpenter in the afternoon. You work as a taxi driver in the evening. You work as something else which are not related to the same field. But you've got a lot of duties. Everything related to 1 or 2 fields is okay. When you say, I've got a lot of work. Got the idea? This is the right word. Okay. Grammar. Range of tenses, less mistakes. When you answer within 1 tense, most of the questions of the Ielts are flat, with a flat tense, we call it. With 1 tense, whether they are in the simple past, they are in the simple present, or they are in the future. When you answer only in simple present, for example, what's the weather like in your country? You need to mention at least another tense. Here, what's the weather like in your country? It's hot in summer and cold in winter. This is what you will answer, right? But it's wrong.
This is fake answer.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hot in summer. Okay, it's hot in summer. Instead of hot, it's boiling in summer and freezing cold in winter. This is number 1. Okay, let's say these days it's a bit hot. It's a bit freezing cold. Some people are shivering due to the cold weather here in Iraq. For example, last week, that thing happened. Okay, next month it will be spring. The weather will be that thing. In 2 months from now, it will be boiling hot. Look at the difference here. You are expanding with your answer. You are mentioning some high band word scores, and you are giving more than a tense. You are giving a range of tenses. You don't need to give examples when somebody else asks you. But in the IELTS speaking test, you need to mention more than a tense. How to do that? Most of the times we give an example. Okay? Is that clear? Because that will raise your score. If you deserve 5, they will give you 7 or 8. Look at the difference here. When you play with the tenses. Okay. Less mistakes. What does it mean? For example, she go to school every day. She plays tennis. Then you add the S to the verbs. Okay? This is regarded as a flow mistake when you have 1 mistake only. As we call it in our country, when you have mistakes in replacing letters instead of letters. Okay? Here. It's flow mistake. But when you repeat the mistake, this is a main mistake. It's a major mistake. She go to school every day. She play tennis. She do that. Those are mistakes. It's regarded as a major mistake. Is that clear? Okay. Now, let's come to pronunciation. Word pronunciation sounds, intonation. Word pronunciation, it does not mean that if you speak British or American, Australian, Canadian, whatever, they don't care. They don't care about that. For example, in British English, we say advertisement. In American English, we say advertisement. In British English, we say often. In American English, they say often. Both are okay. But, for example, for word pronunciation, we have determine. If you say determine, this is a mistake. A main mistake. How much? If you say how much, this is a main mistake. Is that clear? The word pronunciation? Okay. Sounds. You can't commentate. You are not a commentator. For example, my name is Haida, I live in Baghdad, I'm 43 years old. No, you are not a commentator. You are not an announcer. You need to play with the sound intonation. How? To focus on the main word and stress it. Make the sound a bit louder. It will be clear for them. My name is Haida. I'm 43 years old. I live in Baghdad. Look at it. Right? Okay? This is for example. And this is for the sounds and for the intonation. Any questions here before we take examples? No questions? Okay, let's move on. Part 1. The Ielts speaking test is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, personal questions, not a private, personal, but not a private. Yes. Part 2, a group of 3 to 5 questions related to one subject. You will be given a small sheet of paper with the questions and a slip of paper to write notes. If you like, you need to write notes about the subject, related to the subject, 3 to 5 words. Okay? And you will be given 1 minute to think of the answers. Then you will be given 1 to 2 minutes. That means you need to answer between 60 to 120 seconds. You need to answer within 70 to 110 seconds. To answer the questions as 1 unit. We will take an example about it. Then part 3, you will have some questions which are related to part 2. We will see. Part 1, for example, what's your name? My name is John Chuck. Where do you come from? I come from Turkey, Istanbul. It's the capital city of Turkey. It's a big city. The population is over 3 million and it's a very exciting city. There are a lot of shops, restaurants, bazaars, and a lot of tourist sites. But since it's the capital city, it's crowded and expensive. Look at how I explained. In case they stop you, you need to stop immediately. I will give an example. I come from Turkey, Istanbul. It's the capital city. Thank you very much. Stop. Okay? Immediately. Oh, they may ask you a following up question. Stop immediately and answer their question. Don't keep on speaking if they stop you. Okay? Clear? Okay. Let's move on. What are you doing at present? I'm looking for work. Luckily, there are a lot of vacancies for my profession. Profession means field of study. I was working, look at it. The question is, what are you doing at present? That means in present continuous. I answered in present continuous. Then, I gave a sentence in simple present. Here, I'm looking for work, present continuous. Then, there are a lot of vacancies for my profession. And instead of vacancies, you may say opportunities. Okay? It's in simple present. Then I moved on to a past continuous sentence. I was working as a nurse, but it's a very hard job and I did that for 3 years. Then I stopped to study the master's in degree and, as I told you, I'm looking for employment right now. Also, I use simple past here. 4 different tenses. Simple present, I started with present continuous, then simple present, then past continuous, simple present again, and simple past. Okay? And here, instead of work, I used employment. It's a high band word score in which I avoided the repetition of a word. Is that clear? Okay. Now, let's move on. Part 2. You should talk about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. You should say, what kind of music do you like? You will have a sheet of paper to see the questions, and you will keep on looking at the questions while answering if you like. You will keep the paper until you finish answering this question. This part, okay? Then they will ask you to give it back. Okay? This is for part 2. What kind of music is popular in your country? Why is music important to us? When do you like to listen to music? Here are the questions which you will answer. For example, they will tell you this is part 2 and this is a slip of paper. You will have 1 minute to have a look at the questions and think of the answers. You may write notes if you like. They will give you a pencil with a slip of paper to write notes. You should write notes, 3 to 5 words, no more than that, related to the same subject. You use them, you don't use them, it's up to you. Okay? Now, let's move on. When you answer this part, it's not important to start from the first question. You are free. You may start from any question you like, which is suitable to start with, as you see, as you think. Then you need to answer the entire questions, all the questions, with some simple explanation to the subject. Let's take, for example, well, I like classical music and also folk music. Classical music is very relaxing and folk music is very interesting because it tells us about people's culture or history. And instead of because, you may say since, S-I-N-C-E. Since is the same meaning as because. We use it. I honestly don't listen to music much since I'm busy. I have a full-time job and I have to shop and cook and I like to read in my spare time. I usually don't say usually. In English, we say usually. If you want to say it in American English, you may say usually. Okay? Usually. We don't have the E sound. We don't have the E sound before the double L-Y. I usually listen to music at night in my bedroom. The Turks used to listen to Turkish music, but now they really like the Western style music and it's more popular. In fact, a lot of the music that young people in Turkey listen to is in English though. Okay, if you notice here, when I answered with some explanation and I played with the tenses too. Then I added some information to it. And I added this word though in its right place in order to increase my score. This word, this expression, this word, when I added it, it increased my scores. For example, if I deserve 6 or 7 for this one, I will get 7 or 8. I might even get a full score for this question because they collect the scores and they divide it, then they take the average. Okay, any questions here? No questions? Okay, let's move on. Part 3. Look at the part 3 questions. They are related to the same subject. How would you define music? It's a very difficult question, but in my opinion, it's a language without words. Music is the only unique language that can be understood worldwide. I didn't say around the world. Around the world is a low band expression score, okay? So I used worldwide. I didn't say globally. Worldwide is more used, more popular than globally. Just imagine that you are listening to a sad Italian music without understanding it. You will get sad. Or you are listening to a happy Spanish music. You will get happy without getting what it's actually saying. So we can say that music is the language of hearts. You don't have to understand it. You should just feel it. Okay? Any questions here? No questions? Let's come to it. Now, let's come here, but in my opinion, I added this expression to increase my score. It's a language without words. Using this expression increased my score. Unique. I used it because it's a high band word score, this word. Worldwide, also, the same thing. When I answered, firstly, I used simple present. Then now, here, just imagine that you are listening to a sad Italian music. I used the present continuous to play with the tenses, to use a range of tenses. Then I used you will get sad. You will get sad. We don't say you will be sad. You will get sad is more official than you will be sad, which is less official. Okay? So, official uses give you high band scores. Okay? Now, I used also the future, the simple future here in order to increase my scores. Okay. Now, then I used here a piece of advice. You should just feel it. It's a recommendation here. Honestly, it's not a piece of advice. It's a recommendation precisely here. Also, it increased my score when I recommended that thing. Okay? Any questions here? Is that clear, Mr. Muhammad? Okay. Now, let's come to some other questions here. What influence do you think music has on life? As you know, the effect of, don't say the affect. Affect is a verb with an A. This is E, the noun. The effect of music can be good. It helps us to relax and also to enjoy ourselves when we get together. But, on the other hand, some kinds of music encourage drug use and violence. What part of the music is playing in your culture? Look at the answer here and how I played with the tenses. In the past, Turkish music was quite nationalistic. It was used to encourage love for Turkey or something like that. But today, people listen to all types of music as they do like the other countries, such as America or the UK. And in the future, I hope music in Turkey will improve because I don't think it's very good now. You got the idea how I answered here? I could easily answer, people in my country listen to that music because they love it. They for example, they dance that thing of dance and these things. It will be something usual, something ordinary to have such an answer. But to play with the tenses, to play with the words, and this is how you may increase your scores in the IELTS speaking test. This is really important. How to get words. Those are some words that they can be utilitarian for you here. And there are other lists also. How to know the questions. There are some expected questions, especially for the speaking, because the speaking questions are usually repeated in the tests. I have a list of around 70 or 80 questions that they are expected to be asked from January to April, and those for months. Here, okay. Now, we finished some of the workshop, some part of the workshop here. Have you got any questions to ask? Who has a question? Do not hesitate asking. Yes? A question? Don't hesitate asking. Yes?
I don't have any questions right now, but if I'm gonna ask you, I think, what if he don't tell us to stop, like, in a certain point, and if we just keep talking, and
No, once you finish, look, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. In part 1 questions, you need to make your answer from 10 to 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay?
You're gonna stop me like in 10 seconds.
He might stop you even before the 10 seconds. Just like, what's your name? Would you please introduce yourself? Something like that. You may give 1 sentence or 2 sentences only. He or she will ask the other one.
And also, if he didn't stop me after 12
You
seconds,
stop. You may stop. That's it.
like, I can stop.
My name is Haydar Al-Qasir.
Right.
My name is Haydar Al-Qasir.
But it's better,
That's it.
like, to keep talking
Yes.
in a certain topic or something.
No, that depends. In part 2, 70 to 120 seconds. Once you reach the 120 seconds, he or she will stop you. Your time is finished. Part 3 questions, you have around, let's say, 30 to 45 seconds to answer. If you finish within 30 seconds, stop. Within 20 seconds, stop. Yes?
Well, I have to give like a whole idea to the person. Like,
That's
who
the
I'm
most
talking to.
important thing. That's why you need to speak fluently. Okay?
Okay.
You need to expect the unexpected. Yes, to prepare yourself well. This is really important. Okay?
All right. Thanks
Yes.
for flagging.
Okay? Who's got a question? Do not hesitate asking. Salam. Who's got a question? Yes? No questions? No? Mr. Muhammad? Hello? Have you got any questions? No? Okay. Let's give another example here. Let's take another example here for a full speaking test. Part 1. Could you tell me your name and candidate number? My name is David Bond and my candidate number is 2132. Where are you from? Sometimes they don't ask you where I'm from. Sometimes they ask you, where do you come from? Where do you come from? Which means, just like where I'm from, the same thing. Actually, I was born in Mumbai. That is a very big and overpopulated city. But I grew up in New Delhi. Look, I didn't say actually. No, we don't have it. We don't have this kind of pronunciation in English. It's just in schools. We say actually, actually. What kind of a place is it? Can you describe it for me? New Delhi is a nice city. It's got lovely weather. The people are very friendly and open, and they are also really sociable. It's got a lot of advantages. For example, there are lots of good universities, hospitals, shopping centers, and in fact, it's a facilitated city. Besides, it's a multicultural city, but it has disadvantages too. For instance, stuffs are a bit expensive, and sometimes we witness some major and minor crime in the city. When you mention the defects of your city, of your hometown, of your country, of the neighborhood you live in, don't mention something special, something specific to the place where you live, or let's say to your country or whatever. Stu, a few years ago, I had no specific time for my lunch, but since last year, I arranged my time to have my lunch between 12 and 1 p.m. Okay, I could add some sentences, some embedded sentence in another tense. Even if it was a lie, it's okay. It's okay to lie in the Ielts test speaking. You don't have the Holy Quran or the Bible to swear on. No, you are free. You are free. They don't care about the information you give. They care about the language you produce and the language you use. This is what they care about. How many brothers and sisters have you got?
Like I have one sister, and with a big variation in age between me and her. She's older.
Okay, that's it.
1 years older than me.
I don't care if you have one sister, if you don't have any sisters, if you have 10 sisters. I don't care. It's none of my business. I just care about the language you produce and the language you use. Okay? How many bedrooms are there in your house?
Like there are 5 bedrooms in my house.
That's it. Okay. There are 5 bedrooms. Don't say there are 3 bedrooms. No, wait. There are 2 bedrooms and 1. No, this is 0. Okay. This is a big 0. Okay, you got it? They don't care. You have 2 bedrooms. Say, I have 10 bedrooms. Okay. Yes, you may lie, but lie logically. Okay. Let's move on. What sort of food are you into? What sort means what kind? I like different kinds of food, but tandoori chicken is my favorite. How many languages do you speak? I speak Indian, English, and a bit of French. I can speak Indian because it's my native language. Don't say my mother tongue language. Mother tongue is not an official use. Native is the official use. Okay? It's not a mistake. It's 100% correct. But it's a low band word use. Okay? Use native. Okay, let's move on. While English language, I studied it in school, and I improved it through having friends from some European countries. I also took some French classes last year. Speaking more than a language is really important since the human communication requires that, and the fields of science require understanding and speaking at least 2 common languages. Okay, now, do you think that I can speak Indian? That's my question. Do you think that I can speak Indian? No, I can't speak Indian. Although I was lecturing in Sikkim Manipal University, the headquarters of it is in Hyderabad, but I can't speak Indian at all. I think I know some words. I know some words in Indian, okay. But if I say I speak Indian fluently, they don't care. They care about what I will produce, the reasons I will give, how I learned it, how I acquired it. This is what they care about. They will not ask me something in Indian language. Got the idea? For example, can you speak French?
No, I can't.
Tell me that you can speak French. I don't care. It's none of my business. I will not ask you something in the French language. I will listen to you, how you learned it, how, let's say, what's the benefit of knowing French language as a second language or as a third language for you. This is what I care about. Got the idea now? Okay, let's move on. Now let's come to part 2. You should talk about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. You should describe a building or construction that you have seen and impressed you. What was it? Where was it located? When did you visit it? What made you astonished about that building? Astonished, that means wow. Okay? Now, I myself have seen many constructions, and among them, the one that caught my eyes the most is Eiffel Tower. My family and I went to Paris about 2 years ago, and I got the chance to visit this masterpiece. It's a huge and marvelous structure and was built in a way that really catches your eyes and grabs your mind. I do believe that in the century of technology we can design unique patterns, but considering the history of the tower, it turns to be something special. Okay, let's come to the answer. I myself is an additional use which gave me some high score. Okay, here. Constructions, yes, it's some high score instead of buildings. Among them, between two, among three and more. You may say between, it's okay, but it will be something weak here, a weak language to use. But when you say among, when you mean three and more, yes, it's fully correct, okay? Here. The one that caught my eyes, the one that impressed me. Impressed is also high band word score, high band use score, okay? Astonished also, okay? But caught my eyes is higher than them. Caught my eyes. That's why I used it here. The most is Eiffel Tower. My family and I, when we want to mention two or more than two in the subject, we don't, and I is within. We don't say I and my friend. No, my friend and I. We always put I after the end. Okay? This is a grammatical use. It will be different for them. Where is it? Sorry. My family and I went to Paris about 2 years ago, and I got the chance to visit this masterpiece. Masterpiece is a high band use here. It's a huge and marvelous structure. Marvelous means a great. Okay? But marvelous is a high band use. It's higher than using a great. Structure, construction, I wanted to change. I wanted to show them the enrichment and the flourishment of my language. I didn't repeat construction. I used structure. Okay? Now, and was built in a way that really catches your eyes and it grabs your mind. To grab your mind, it's a high band use here. It's advanced language. You need to use the language you speak with, just like you are writing with. Okay? I will give an example. Sorry, I will put you as an example here. You said gonna. Gonna, you will be deducted for. In the Ielts, going to. Yes, this is the Ielts.
Writing or also speaking?
The same.
All right.
It's the same. Why? Because you need to use the official language.
It's kind of streety language or something
Yes.
like that.
Okay, slang. You cannot use the third class language. To use the second class, you will be intermediate. To use the first class language, which means the very official language, that means you will be advanced. Okay? C1 or C2. Yes, in the Ielts. That's the Ielts. Okay, sorry. Let's move on here.
Sorry, you put myself after I. Is this right?
Yes,
Really?
yes. I myself did that. Yes, I myself will do that. Yes, we use it in English. We use it. Yes. Because here is assertion. It's language assertion. We have language assertion, we have language clifting, sentence clifting, we have lots of things to use will raise your scores in the Ielts.
This is the first time I see it.
Yes, because this is the official language. We call it first class language when we use it. It's totally different from the second or the third class. Yes. Okay. Now, let's move on here. I do believe. This is another assertion. I may say I believe, but here is an assertion. I do believe that in the century of technology, we can design unique patterns, instead of constructions, and instead of, structure or structures. Okay? As I told you, to show them the flourishment and the enrichment of my language. But considering the history of the tower, it tells to be something special. Okay. Any questions here so far?
I do believe.
Yes?
Two verb?
No, do believe here is not regarded as two verbs.
Two verb?
No, it's one verb with an assertion. To assert something. Yes. To ensure something. Yes. Okay. Now, part 3. Look at part 3 questions. Questions related to part 2. Will you ever go back to this place again? Indeed. I'm really looking forward to visiting this place again. Maybe this time I get more chance and see more. Look, I'm really looking forward to verb ing form. I may say, I will visit this place again. I want to visit this place again. I'm planning. I tend to. But they are less. Okay? This is higher. Got the difference now? Why we are using such uses. And instead of taking 5, I want to take 8. I want to take 7. I want to take 8.5. Why not? Okay? Now, what do you think is the most important element that makes a building a home, rather than somewhere to live? I think the emotional elements and belongings are the main factors contributing to making a house or a place into home. Your mother, father, brother, sister, and all that you love are among the most important. As you know, there are many buildings in the town, but just one is your home, where you can relax and enjoy the peace. I believe home is where your heart is. I don't need this one, but I want higher score. That's why I put it in the right place. In the right time, I put this one. So, they might give me 7, but for this one, I may take even 9 out of 9 for this question. I don't mean for the entire test. I mean for this question. Okay? These simple things make the difference. Okay. Let's move on. Do you think homeless people are basically responsible for their own situation? I think it's a complicated issue, and we cannot directly put the blame on anybody or any group. There are many factors contributing to this issue. For example, unemployment, inflation, social injustice, mismanagement, and so on. And among them, an individual may be blamed for some cases such as negligence, addiction, violation, and all related factors that lead to a breach of law and therefore unemployment and its fruit, homelessness. I didn't say lead to break the law. To break the law is law banned where this called. Breach the law is the official one. Okay? It makes the difference here. Do you think problems such as homeless are increasing in today's world? Indeed, nowadays, getting a house has turned into a dream for most of people. Low-income inflation, redundancy, and other tangible problems and the pandemic of COVID-19 have made the condition worse for people. They scarcely earn their living, and a lot of people have missed their jobs. So it's increasing a day by day. Let's come to something important. If you can't hear the question well, okay, cannot hear the question well, I beg your pardon. You may say, pardon me, which means, sorry, I could not hear you well. Sorry, I could not hear you well. We don't say come again, we don't say excuse me, we don't say sorry, I did not hear you well, because this is a very, very low language, very weak language to use. Yes, I beg your pardon, pardon me, pardon, okay? And it's better to put your finger, the right or the left here, behind one of your ears. I beg your pardon, I beg your pardon, which means I did not hear you well, repeat the question. They will respect that. Another thing, but it rarely happens to do it. When you cannot understand the question, you want to tell them to ask it in other words giving the same meaning. It's rare they agree and do it. Okay? But it happened. Could you rephrase that, please? That means, would you please repeat your question or explain your question in other words? I did not understand it. It rarely happens that they agree and repeat the question. But it happened. Okay? Now, is there any question? Who has a question? Let's briefly explain what we have taken. Firstly, we said that in the answer speaking test, how to improve your answer speaking test score. Okay? Firstly, you need to answer with explanation. For example, when you answer a question, just don't answer with one sentence only. No. You need to answer the questions how and why after that question. Okay? When they ask you about the weather, you need to give examples also. Don't say that, for example, this is a simple example about the weather. It's boiling in summer and freezing cold in winter. This is not an answer at all for the Ielts. It's an answer for someone who is conversating with you. Okay? This is number one. Number two, try to use range of vocabulary words. It's really important, and range of tenses. And we've talked about that. Okay, everyone? Now, let's take somebody to take a test. Now, who would like to try? Who would like to try? Yes, please. Well.
I have to sit or just...
Yes, okay, you need to sit. Not you've got to sit, but you need to sit. Okay, okay, sorry. Could you please tell me your name and your candidate number?
My name is Nasri and my candidate number is 2132.
Where do you come from?
I live in Baghdad, but I'm born in Karbala. And also, I start the elementary school in...
What kind of a place is it? Can you describe it for me?
Baghdad is a wonderful city with a Tigris river. And also, it's kind of a crowded city because it has a large population in it. And I don't like that much because I really like... not crowded place.
What's your main meal of the day?
My main meal of the day is lunch. I take it around 2 p.m. or so. I really like rice and fried chicken to eat it because it's healthy, and also I...
What sort of food are you into?
For me, I really like junk food, as you know, but at certain time I change it to eat a healthy food to my health, and I used to go into the gym.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, I speak Arabic as my native language, and also I start to practicing English. Also, I speak a bit French because I learned it in my school.
Thank you very much. Okay. No, that was part one. Thank you. Okay. Let's analyze your answer. Firstly, you had some hesitation in one of the questions. Okay, that you've got some deduction. Secondly, you said about Baghdad, you said it has a lot of people or something like that.
It's a large population.
A large population. Instead of that, this is a low band
Word.
use. Okay, you could have said, let's say it's overpopulated. Yes, it's crowded. Crowded is okay, but overpopulated is the highest. Okay, this is number one. Secondly, you've got two grammatical mistakes. And the most important thing is that you spoke with one intonation. You did not play with your sound intonation. This is really important. You did not stress the main word, and that's really important. I gave you an example. For example, my name is Nasri. I'm 23 years old. Something like that. Okay? Okay. Now, part two. Part two. You now have 1 minute to think of the answers. You may write notes if you like. Well, thank you very much. You have 1 to 2 minutes to answer. Start, please.
Answer like speaking. Okay, so one time both of my friends has an argument because my friends crashed in my other friend's car in the highway when he was driving it, and it happened about 2 months ago. And it's solved by my friend Ahmed fixed my friend Ali car, and I felt really stressed because I don't want to lose my friends, and that's it, I think. Or I should speak more. Okay.
Okay.
Can I repeat it?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Your answer was very short. You did not expand
Or give a
with the
one
ideas.
detail, yeah.
You did not explain more about it. You just answered the questions. Although you played with the tenses. You mentioned one tense, more than a tense, sorry. You had some grammatical mistakes. Okay. So you need to focus on the grammar. You need to use more high band word discourse. This is really important. You need to link the ideas with linking words like fillers, as we call them, like transition signal words, like, for example, although, like though, like and, but, however, moreover, furthermore, okay, because they will increase your mark. You may also say, for example, one of my friends was injured, was seriously injured. Yes, this will increase the expression will increase. You may explain whose fault was it also, in your opinion, what happened precisely, something like that, okay? Okay. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nasser. Okay, who would like to? Nobody? Okay. Well, if you have nothing, let me listen to your questions if you have any questions. Who has a question? Yes. Yes, please. Who has a question about the IELTS in general?
Right, so can we use like a science word or some words like we read it in some books of science or something?
I will give you an example. I will give you an example here. As we know that the heart in the language is called medically called cardium. You cannot use it in the IELTS, whether in the written test, the writing test, in the written test, or in the spoken test, the speaking test. You can't.
Like I read a word like pale.
Pale is okay.
So we can
Pale
use
is
some
okay.
words
Yeah,
depending
yes,
on which-
yes, it depends on the word. Yes. Other questions? About the IELTS in general.
Let me think about it.
Okay. Yes, please. Any questions about the IELTS in general? Yes, please.
How much time we need to be prepared for the IELTS exam?
That depends on the level of your language, and that depends also on the training that you will get, really. Because those two elements play a very important role to achieve the band score that you are looking for. Yes, it depends on the level of your language, and it depends on the training that you get. Yes,
Which level it needs, intermediate or higher?
that depends. Which score do you need?
About 6.5.
6.5. It's better to be at least intermediate level. But when we say intermediate, we mean the real, the actual intermediate level. Yes, that when you can speak and discuss and conversate and also negotiate with the language. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? No? Yes, please. Any questions regarding the IELTS in general? No? 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 Okay. So, thank you for coming. We come to the end of our session of today. We will have more sessions in the future, God willing. Okay, it was nice to see you here and wish to see you again. Thank you very much.